Hey everyone, it's Derrick here with another video, and today we're about to embark on our first ride with the Canyon Endurace AL. So this bike weighs 9.22 kilograms or 20 point so on pounds. Now this was supposed to come with some DT Swiss wheels that were tubeless ready, but it did not. So I'm supposed to get a $150 credit from Canyon for that, but this is in a small frame. I'm 5'9"-ish and have a 31-inch inseam, and I have attached basically an extra 3 pounds plus whatever the water bottles weigh with the liquid in them. And yeah, I'll mostly be riding a bit to probably get a little bit of a feel of the bike and see like saddle height and handlebar height. I think handlebars may be still a little bit high, but we'll see what we can do to adjust them. But these can fit up to a 35mm tire, and they have the Shimano 105 with the disc brakes in them. So yeah, we'll get started and give you an impression here. What's interesting about this is that it's an aluminum frame, but it sounds kind of different than an aluminum frame when you hit it. It's got a carbon fiber fork and a carbon fiber seat post. So those two, it had a carbon fiber fork on my last bike, but it's not a carbon fiber seat post. This is also a different saddle than I'm typically using. I think this is like a $50 saddle from Sal Italia. And yeah, want to see if this is a good bike. I adjusted everything yesterday, but we'll let you know how it is. Alright, so first impressions. It's very compliant. These tires are 32mm tires, so haven't ridden on those unless I was on my gravel bike. The nice steel frame that I made. Oh, I didn't make the steel frame, I guess I built the bike. So yeah, the geometry with the stem currently, it's quite high, so I don't feel like I'm like dropping too much, but yeah, I think yeah, it's super compliant. We'll see on this next downhill how fast it is, but right now, yeah, it's just super comfy. And really the only thing that I can talk about right now. Seems pretty stiff, agile, and I don't know if the compliance aspect of it is based on just the carbon fiber seat post or not, but I'm sure it's making like an incremental difference. But the disc brakes feel good. But we're 2 miles in. Definitely still have to do some adjusting with the derailleurs, which is annoying. I kind of feel like I should have just bought a Di2 or SRAM electronic group set. Like deal with the adjustments digitally instead of analogically. So, but yeah, we'll see heading down a downhill how this is gonna be. So the downhill is pretty good. I think it has a lot of free speed that we don't really have to pedal too much for, but I think it's been doing well. Really can't complain. I went over a big bump where I was sitting in the saddle and got a little nice jolt, but I did get a vasectomy like 14 days ago, so bear with me while I try to save my balls from getting racked. But so far so good. My last bike was a Windsor Fens from Bikes Direct in 2011, and the aluminum frame was definitely manufactured quite a bit differently. This one here, you can see a lot of the welds
but they're hidden really, really well, as you can see through here and over here. But yeah, I think, you know, 12 years can do a lot of things, and aluminum frames are at least starting to look like carbon frames. How come nobody told me that the shutter speed was stuck on 1/240? Come on! So, one of the things to note is that, again, the free speed, and maybe the comparison isn't great in terms of comparing it to the mountain bike that I've been lugging around for the last couple of weeks. But yeah, it seems pretty quick. One of the things to note is I think the gearing is definitely different than the other bike that I had. I'm pretty sure it was the same, but it seems like I have less at the top ends, which may be okay because I'm not really a huge sprinter, so. But yeah, let's talk a little bit more about this. What have I said? Price. Out the door, taxes and shipping, just at $1,800. So I think the price has changed since then. So it'd probably be like more like $1,900. But I think with the $150 credit, so marking in at $1,650, it's a pretty freaking good deal. I mean, the blue looks freaking amazing. I would want maybe the Shimano Di2 105 that just came out, but I know there's an issue with supply. But yeah, I mean, that's really the only thing that I would probably want to change out of this particular bike. I like the skewers that they have, and I like that there's no tool that I need for them. I mentioned that it has carbon fiber seat posts. I honestly don't think that's really making much of a difference in terms of compliance. I think the major thing here is really the 32mm tires over the 25 that I had been used to previously. So I think that's one thing to note. I would love to see what the 32mm tires feel like on tubeless setup, but sadly the tires that it came with aren't allowed to be set up with tubeless. It says tube only. So, and I mentioned the Fulcrum wheel set that it came with. They're the Fulcrum Racing 900s, and I talked to Canyon as well as Fulcrum about this, and it's likely that they're pretty easy to set up with a tubeless setup. So we just have to remove the current rim tape and switch them out. God, it's really windy this way. It's gonna suck on the way back. But I do have 2 tubes that it currently has at that 32mm, and I have, I'm pretty sure, like 3 additional tubes that I have as spares. I have them in the back pocket right here as spares, 2 of them. And that bag with the multi-tool weighs right around 3 pounds. Okay, well, now I know why it felt like there was so much free speed. The wind always tricks you and makes you think that you're not getting a tailwind. But just switching back and forth between a mountain bike and a road bike, that sort of gets me. And overall, even with the 32mm tires, I'm still feeling a lot like aluminum is stiff as F. And quite honestly, this really doesn't feel too much different. In fact, this might feel worse than my prior bike because of the wheel set that I had was carbon fiber. So if nothing else, incremental improvement definitely in the brakes, but in the frame, the feel, and everything else, the Canyon Endurace AL Disc 8 is definitely stiff and fairly quick. Geometry is very, very comfortable. But let me tell you about the competitors that I was looking at. I was actually looking at a Bikes Direct option again, because I had a pretty good experience with them last time. And again, the value for the money is there. But if you're ever looking to upgrade your bike in the future and sell it, there's like no resale value in those bikes. So that's one thing to note. And then the other one is the Lauf Sigla. I was looking into that too, because I'm really looking for this bike to do everything. With the 35mm clearance, I was hoping to go tubeless and take this puppy out on the trail. So that was really the entire hope, is to get the all-in-one bike that works for everything. Triathlons, gravel, and road. So we just finished our 20-mile ride, averaged around 18 miles an hour. So yeah, what do I have to say about the Canyon Endurace Disc 8? It's, you know, not a bad bike. If I compare the $750 bike, the Windsor Fens that I had in 2011, and compare it to this bike, honestly, it feels very similar. I think the one major difference is that that one came originally with the Shimano 105 gear set, but it was a 3x. So this one is a 2x, and I just recently switched like a couple of years ago to Shimano 105, the newest one. I think it's probably the same model. I think the difference was that I had a different cassette on it. And the reason why I want to note that is because this one here, this cassette, has a little bit bigger spacing in between, because it has a bigger final chain ring here, and I think it's a 34, and I think my other one had maybe up to a 30 or something like that. So one of the things that I noticed was that when I was changing gears, it wasn't just flick, 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 flick. It was kind of like flick, and then I'm in the right gear. So I might have to do some adjusting with that, but that was one of the major differences that I've seen with that and my old bike. And obviously the disc brakes. In terms of the actual geometry, I think I set it up pretty similar. I think the major difference here is that this bar is a bit higher. The way that this frame is set up is that it sort of angles upwards, and most road bikes don't really do that, or at least the road bikes that I have been testing out. But yeah, the handlebar tape feels different. The overall looks feels nice, and the welds are really nicely done here with the paints. I really like this paint color too. And then obviously here with the actual fork here, that's a bit different. The other fork that I had was much more round. So I'm not sure in terms of aero which one looks better, but this one looks really well integrated within the actual bike frame. So overall, looks wise, definitely an A+ here. I think maybe just the cable management is just a little bit iffy, and the spots here. This really just doesn't feel much different than what I had previously, even though this is internally routed. So yeah, overall it's a pretty good bike. I still don't know if it's worth the $1,650 or even the upgrade from my old bike. I think it weighs maybe a pound lighter, but if you add in your water bottles, your toolkits, and all of these other things, it ends up not really making too big of a difference. So I don't know, this is a tough one. Like, if I'm paying to upgrade in a bike, I want something to be upgraded. And this, quite honestly, feels very, very similar to my old bike. The aluminum frame set feels very stiff and, you know, very responsive, so I'm not going to complain about that. That is what I purchased, but yeah, this sort of thing makes me just want to upgrade to something different. The other thing that I was going to say was that the bikes that I was looking at, so there was one with rim brakes that Canyon's still selling for $2,100, or I think it's $2,199. It's actually a carbon frame, it's rim brakes, and it's 15 pounds, so 7 kilograms. So much, much lighter. If I add everything onto it, it still will be under 20 pounds. So that's one thing to note. But the problem was that it only came in a large and extra large frame set. So I'm not that tall, so that frame set's probably not great for me. But so I was looking at that, and then I also looked at the Grail AL and then the Grail carbon fiber frame as well, because I wanted there to be spacing in between the fork and the rear stay to fit a, you know, a very, very fat tire. So because again, I wanted it to do everything. In terms of how we did here, honestly, I didn't think we did too well here. I think I was looking at a steel frame bike, which would be a lot more supple over the bumps. This one's still very harsh over the bumps. Carbon fiber is supposed to be more compliant and able to soak up some of those, so that's why I was looking at the Lauf with the actual 30mm fork that they have. That looks kind of funky. They also oddly charge like $400 extra to have blue, so that was annoying too. So I think the rigid one is $2,600, the black one, and I think the one with the 30mm fork is maybe $300 or $400 more than that. So yeah, those are pretty expensive and double what this bike costs. Are those worth it? Honestly, no. That's quite a lot for a bike, and again, I'm still trying to be as budget friendly as possible. But again, $1,650 in this world today for a brand recognized bike, I guess that's a pretty decent deal. But am I too happy about this? Like, not so much. It's still just an okay bike. It's I might have to play around with a few things to get myself to really like it. So we'll see how this goes. But thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think of this bike, or if you have any questions. But we'll see you in the next one. Okay, this will be officially ride 2. So we made a few adjustments, and we changed the stack height as well as a little bit of the seat height. Maybe millimeters on the seat height, but we're gonna try this out and see how it goes. And made some adjustments in terms of the derailleur too, because it was making some slapping noise, so wanting to make sure we address that. So this one's going to be a little bit in the gravelly area, so it's packed gravel, so Des Plaines River Trail in Illinois. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. All right, so we made it to the trail, and the adjustments seem handlebar wise pretty aggressive, but we'll still play around with it. I think my seat needs to be a little bit closer, but yeah, it feels pretty comfortable. I'm still getting used to sitting in this particular saddle, so my sit bones are not too happy with me right now. Yeah, we're here in some nice gravelly, packed gravel. I would say this is some premium gravel. Definitely not too much to be scared of here. I think honors goes to once we cross over Lake Cook Road and it gets real bad. But overall, I'm happy thus far with how it feels, at least on this, because my road bike felt pretty much at home on this too. So 32mm tires will probably help a little bit too, and maybe the updated frame will also help with that. But we'll see. So what are my thoughts on packed gravel? Well, packed gravel is fine. It was fine with my road bike, so I imagine it would be fine with bigger tires, and and it is fine on the same aluminum frame and carbon fork and carbon seat post, so really no issues there. We'll have to do it a little bit further and see when we hit some sands and some other things if 32 millimeters is wide enough. But yeah, let's head back. We're at 8.68 miles at 30 minutes and averaging 17.3 miles per hour, so pretty quick for not a ton of effort. Second ride out, took her on some gravel. She got a little gravelly, but definitely need to clean the chain off and then re-lube it, since I think most people say from the factory the chain lube is trash. So we'll see. We'll clean her off a little bit and yeah, see how she does on other rides. She's plenty stiff, but doesn't really feel too different than the 23 millimeters that I rode on before. But yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see. I need to get in better cycling shape too, so there's that as well.